New Age horror fans will never understand the kind of impact the first two Alien movies had on horror cinema at the time, introducing whole audiences to not just the titular xenomorph, but also Sigourney Weaver's Ripley, a female action hero at a time when such a thing was unheard of. Weaver's been gunning to return to the Alien franchise for years, so today let's talk about Alien 5 and the turmoil surrounding it. Firstly, the story behind Alien 5. For years, fans have been waiting with bated breath to watch the fifth installment of the Alien franchise come onto the big screen and finally end the story of Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley. Her character's last outing, Alien Resurrection, was poorly received by critics and fans alike. They felt like it failed to capture what made the original films so iconic. There have been multiple attempts to make a fifth movie with Weaver in it, considering she refused to appear as the character in the Whedon-helmed Resurrection. Since then, Ridley Scott, the original director of the movies, moved on to create Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but fans' hopes were renewed when rumors began of District 9's Blomkamp writing a story that would bring Ripley back, with James Cameron attempting to help bring the idea to life back in 2019. Unfortunately, it looks like fans need to keep that bated breath in. It seems highly unlikely that we'll see an Alien 5 anytime in the near future. Next, it's unlikely that the movie will ever be made. While speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, Walter Hill was asked pretty direct questions about whether we'd see Weaver's Ripley blasting through xenomorphs ever again anytime soon. Fans hoping for a glimmer of hope look away because his response was pretty grim. According to Hill, there's almost no chance of seeing an Alien 5 as far as he can see. He and Weaver worked on trying to get the movie greenlit back when the rights were still owned by Fox, but the Disney acquisition threw a major wrench in their plans. The project was pitched to Disney but was shot down pretty unceremoniously since they were apparently pretty uninterested in seeing where Ripley's story goes. For many, this is the worst news they might have heard in a while. Blomkamp's Alien 5 promised to be a perfect ending for the character of Ripley and would even have featured the fan-favorite character, Corporal Hicks. Weaver is still determined to bring the vision to light and expressed confusion why any studio would pass it up, especially given how there's more than decent amount of fan interest in seeing the movie be brought to the screen. Unfortunately, it looks like Alien 5 was just another movie that got shelved in the acquisition merger. Coming up, Alien 5 director had magic in his hands. Hill is a director with a lot of hits and misses on his track sheet, but given that he was the one who discovered the original screenplay of Alien, he knows a movie with good potential when he sees it, and he definitely knows how to draw out that potential. Remember the scene in the first Alien movie with the chest burster? Yeah, that would never have happened if he hadn't thought of how to make that concept as horrifying and cool as possible. In fact, he was the one who changed Ripley to a female, bringing the iconic Weaver to the silver screen. Knowing his talent and love for the franchise just makes the news of its demise that much harder to swallow. According to an interview, Hill would have created a film that would go back to the franchise's horror roots, complete with a brand new type of xenomorph that would stalk our protagonists with chilling efficiency. Following that, a fifth movie could have ended that Ripley saga properly. A lot of people were pretty annoyed with Ripley's last outing, in which she returned as a clone, complaining that the story felt soulless and disrespectful to the character. In fact, it was such a bad take that Sigourney Weaver straight up refused to reprise her role as Ripley. Given that, a lot of fans had their hopes pinned on Alien 5 finally being the movie star's last hurrah as the iconic character. Alien 5 would have acted as a full retcon, cutting up the third and fourth Alien movies, subsequently also reviving the characters of Hicks and Newt, who were killed off later in the franchise. This means the director would have had free reign to craft a story specifically tailored to giving Ripley the greatest possible send-off, cementing her legacy in the Action Hero Hall of Fame. The results would have been pretty exciting. After all, Weaver has expressed multiple times how much she appreciates Hill's take on the character. In fact, her main complaint with the third movie was that he and Giler were not returning to direct. Not surprising, given the movie's troubled production process, as the resulting script made Ripley sound like a pissed-off gym teacher. Next up, Alien's descent into an action franchise. You might not recall, but Alien wasn't always a franchise about gung-ho action stars, toting big guns and blowing even bigger holes into screeching monstrosities. No, ladies and gentlemen, the first Alien movie was, in all aspects, one of the scariest horror movies that have ever hit the silver screen. However, with each subsequent title, the focus moved away from action and towards horror. Take the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, for example. In the first two movies, the organization was evil, sure, but it was evil in subtle, capitalist ways that were presented with chilling nuance and efficiency. By the third movie, it became impossible to distinguish them from any other group of megalomaniac bad guys with an army of gun-carrying goons. Another issue is that, over time, the titular xenomorphs have become much less terrifying than they used to be. Sure, the designs themselves are still great. It's a winning formula after all. But the consequence of shifting to action means that the xenomorphs had to go from being unstoppable forces of nature from beyond the stars to very, very killable creatures. Strong? Sure. Fast and deadly? Most certainly. But not nearly as imposing as they used to be. In fact, the xenomorphs have pretty much taken a backseat at this point, with the focus in Resurrection being almost solely on Weyland-Yutani. It's never a good sign when you ditch the actual alien in the Alien title, and fans clearly weren't very happy about the direction the movie went in either. Furthermore, the next Alien movie should go back to the franchise's roots. It really isn't too difficult to go back to the horror aspects of the franchise. Look no further than the hit video game Alien Isolation as the perfect blueprint for how to make the fight against the xenomorphs a spine-chilling affair once again. The reason adapting the game would work so well is because the entirety of the focus is on a cat-and-mouse game against the xenomorph that's stalking Ripley's daughter, forcing her to avoid it or suffer instant death at its hands. It was praised for the strong focus on horror, but specifically for how it revived the idea of the xenomorph being more than just bullet fodder. It can and will haunt your nightmares. Horror as a genre would be pretty interesting to tackle. There's been a revived interest in science fiction horror, with the fear of the unknown, vast cosmos being a theme that directors are starting to explore in earnest. We feel like a return to horror would be the exact shot in the arm the series needs. Step back from the action, take a deep breath, and remember that there's nothing in space except you and an unkillable monster that's after your blood. Finally, how Weaver's Ripley could reappear. One question you might have is how in the world Weaver is supposed to reprise her role as Ripley. For one thing, the actress is now in her 70s and had greatly pulled back on the amount of projects that she's taking part in, with the only long-term project she's attached to being the next 3 Avatar movies, which she thinks of pretty fondly. So she basically won't have any time to do a full-time action hero role. However, does she really need to be the main protagonist to get the kind of send-off that fans have been pining for over the years? Alien Isolation already proved that fans wouldn't mind seeing more of Ellen's daughter, Amanda Ripley, a perfect new protagonist for the next phase of the series. A major benefit of having Amanda as the focus is that Weaver could have a much smaller, yet still satisfying role as a mentor to her daughter, bringing many plot points and character arcs full circle in what would surely be an extremely emotional time, as both the actress and the character she is best known for will finally be able to pass the torch to the next generation in the best possible way. Well, folks, that's all the Alien-related news we have for you today. What do you think of the future of the franchise? Do you want to see Weaver make a comeback? Should Alien return to its horror roots? If you enjoyed our content, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification icon. See you all next time!